There have been all kinds of allegations, some of them very wild, over the reasons for the cancellation of the much anticipated parallel Jamhuri Day celebrations on the 12th of December by Raila Odinga and Azimio, apart from the usual official celebrations led by President Ruto. The Azimio Jamhuri Day celebrations were scheduled to be held at the Jacaranda grounds, and it was very easy to predict that it was going to be packed. And of course, a sharp contrast from the official national celebrations led by the president. Most Kenyans will remember what happened during the last national celebrations, the Mashujaa Day celebrations, on 20th of October. The president spoke to a virtually empty stadium. And this is what most Azimio supporters were looking forward to. A kind of showdown that would clearly show who is more popular, who has the votes, and who had the votes during the last August presidential elections. And so you can begin to imagine the great disappointment of many Azimio supporters, indeed a vast majority of Azimio supporters. On my show today, I want us to dive very, very deep, because there's a very disturbing pattern beginning to develop here. Oh yes, there's a pattern, which not only tells us something very loudly, but it also suggests that down the road, somewhere very soon, there's going to be either exposure of a hidden hand, or there's going to be a confrontation. So what am I talking about? Stay with me and find out shortly. Please remember to hit that like button if you're already enjoying the show, and I would highly recommend that you subscribe. Why? Kwa sababu siasa za Kenya zinashika moto. Bado haijafika ile moto ya pasi ya makaa, lakini inakaribia, na inakaribia kwa kasi sana. And so you don't want to miss anything, and one guarantee of that is by subscribing, so that you get a notification every time I release a video. Actually, the right English word, hii kizungu ilikuja na meli, the right word may not be released. I believe it is actually unleash, when Kumekucha Chris unleashes a video. Because trust me, where we're going, that is precisely what it's going to be. Well, for now, twende kazi. Most Kenyans will remember that this is not the first time that Raila Odinga is cancelling a major rally. And I'm talking about a very short span of time. Even the initial rally, which was held at the historic Kumekucha grounds, if you can cast your mind back, have a little memory, was initially postponed. And indeed, some UDA bloggers took advantage of the situation and announced to Kenyans it had been cancelled. Yani it would never happen. Yeah, instead of postponed. Cancelled, of course, means kwisha maneno, forgotten. It will never happen. But postponed means tutaifanya siku ingine. It will be done on another day. For us to even begin to understand what is going on here, we need to conclusively prove that this is a pattern. Yeah. And if indeed it is a pattern, of course it tells us something very loudly. Because politicians, even very ethical politicians like those in Azimio, will always spin the truth. And you see, when you spin the truth, what are you telling us? You're telling us something that is not the truth. You're telling us lies. In announcing the cancellation of the Jamhuri Day parallel Raila Odinga rally, we were told the reason is that the major Azimio leaders would be engaged somewhere else on that particular day. The implication was that a major meeting or a major engagement, more important than these Jamhuri Day celebrations, had come up. Now that is very interesting. And believe it or not, there could be some truth hidden there somewhere. But we'll come back to that later, when we've gotten all our ducks in a row. Now, let us establish this pattern first. Now I can hear somebody who is new to this channel and new to my analysis saying to themselves, sasa hii maneno ya pattern ni nini? Si mtu tu atuambie. Get to the point, Kumekucha Chris. Well, that kind of shallow analysis we don't do on this channel. Because if somebody gets to the point, they'll tell you something, they'll make a statement. Where's the proof? What do they mean? Where are they coming from? Etc., etc. So very quickly, why is a pattern important? A pattern, or something that keeps on repeating itself, happening again and again, speaks volumes. It tells you something. For instance, if things keep on disappearing in your office, all of a sudden, people's phones, somebody's valuable, etc., etc., that pattern will tell you you have a thief in the office, maybe recently employed. And sometimes a pattern points you to the suspect. And so please, let's start and move together. And you make your own conclusion. I will give you the facts. You make a conclusion. This pattern started during our general elections. Last August, a certain foreign power issued an alert to its citizens, warning them to avoid certain parts of the country during the elections and after. Now this puzzled a lot of Kenyans, and especially deep analysts of Kenyan politics, because it didn't make sense. Based on the expected win of those elections, why would there be trouble in Kisumu? Why? And this major foreign power warned people through its State Department, avoid Kisumu at all costs. Avoid certain areas of Kenya. So clearly, they had information in advance. And the elections came, and the shock results were announced. And then this alert by this foreign nation made perfect sense, based on the results of the elections, the shock results of the elections. Meaning that these guys are fortune tellers. Oh yes. But there was more to come. The election results were disputed, and the thing went to the Supreme Court. And as the day of the verdict of the Supreme Court came up, there was another alert to the citizens of this country. Now, I have a friend who works for an NGO, which is funded by this foreign country. And they all received letters and were told, all vehicles must return to base and be safely parked on this day that the Supreme Court is going to pronounce itself. Again, avoid certain areas of the country. Avoid the CBD Nairobi. Avoid Kibra at all costs, etc., etc. And once again, these fortune tellers were right. Absolutely 100% correct. Because when the Supreme Court announced its verdict, wah, some Kenyans are yet to recover. And then Baba's first rally, after the general elections, postponed at the 11th hour. And then the latest, the Jamhuri Day celebrations, postponed at the 11th hour. Clearly, there is a pattern there. And once again, in these cancellations, rumors. But I believe it is okay to use rumors when you also have other information and suggestions that imply don't ignore those rumors. Something like that. And so these rumors are mentioning yet again that same foreign power. What's going on here? You can see clearly there is a consistent pattern that cannot be ignored. So now that we have our pattern, let's move on. Now many Kenyans, very many Kenyans, both young and old, cannot seem to wrap their minds around international politics and how it affects local politics. In 2017, I did a video about how foreign powers influence politics and especially the elections in Kenya. Many people had a good laugh. What is Kumekucha smoking these days? What is wrong with this man? What is he talking about? Aye? Kenya is a sovereign state. Unataka ambia sisi nini? Now I don't want to make this video very long, so I'll not go into the details of how information emerged later that clearly pointed to this foreign influence. But fortunately, this time round, in December 2022, I know I have your attention when I start discussing this issue. Today I know I have your attention. Therefore, let me back up a little so that we understand. And let's back up to the late 1950s, early 1960s. The political phrase in this region and beyond was the winds of change. The winds of change that were giving African states independence from the colonial masters. In our beloved country, Kenya, there was a member of the House of Mumbi safely locked up somewhere called Lodwar. And if you are to believe the colonialists, this man was never going to be released. Of course, his official name was Johnston Kamau. We all know him very well as Jomo Kenyatta. Now, in those days, local native Kenyans walikuwa wajasoma. They're not going to school, many of them. And even those who were educated, those who could read and write, basics, did not understand a lot of things, let alone international politics. My late political lecturer was a very intelligent man, but he never figured out international politics. He tried very hard. He even read various biographies, including the Bill Clinton biography, but he never got it. Which is okay, because what the fathers do not achieve, the sons will achieve, the children will achieve. My children will be much greater than me. What I have not achieved, they will achieve effortlessly. Kunaendanga hivyo. Anyway, because a vast majority of Kenyans did not know what was happening internationally, they just knew that Tom Mboya was a great man, and Jaramogi Oginga Odinga was also a great man. And they knew that out of these two individuals, Kenya was going to get its first leader after she got her independence. But of course, a few Kenyans knew that Tom Mboya had the full backing of the Americans. And they knew that Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, father to Raila, was being backed by Russia. In those days, the Soviet Union. Now, think about it for a minute. Our colonial masters, Great Britain, don't you think they were interested in maintaining the influence over Kenya even after she attained her independence? Of course they did. But they didn't have a major politician who could even be considered for president. And so we can imagine a conversation, confidential conversation, highly confidential, for Her Majesty's eyes only, of British intelligence officers in a meeting. And so please allow me to use Kenyan accents. But remember, this secret meeting is in Britain. Sasa, unajua hatuna mtu. Americans wako na mtu. Russia wako na mtu. Sisi hatuna mtu. What are we going to do? Then another intelligence officer, knowledgeable about Kenya, says, nyinyi ni akili malenge. Kuna kale kamtu, Johnston Kamau, kamefungia huko Kapenguria. Kameishi hapa kwetu muda mrefu sana. Ongea na yeye. Now bear with me, I'm trying to illustrate something very important that is very relevant even today. Now remember, this meeting is being held very far away from Kenya. Very far away. You can't walk to the place. You can't even take a train. You can't even swim. Ni mbali. But it is about to impact on the nation called Kenya in a major way. So back in Kenya, this man who the local Mzungus had sworn will never be released, will rot in jail for the rest of his life. Suddenly, mambo yanabadilika. Suddenly, out of the blue, people start smiling at Jomo Kenyatta. Mzungus start being nice to him. He is moved from the high security place where he was held. And now it's like he's almost under house arrest. He's more comfortable. He's living in a small house. Mama Ngina comes visiting. And of course the result is a young fellow called Uhuru Kenyatta, who is a future president of Kenya. I'm sure you get my meaning. And then things start happening very fast. And pop, Jomo Kenyatta is out of jail. He's released unconditionally. And members of the House of Mumbi and other Kenyans are very happy. Jomo is out. This is good. And you know the rest of the story. Jomo Kenyatta ends up being the first president of Kenya. A sovereign state, a sovereign country. Hakuna foreign influence. Wow. But then soon after independence, there's a problem. There's the American boy, and there's the boy being backed by the Brits. Nani atashinda? Kwa sababu huyu mtoto wa Amerika anakuja kasi sana. And of course the Brits don't like it. They don't want to lose the influence over Kenya. Then a very interesting meeting takes place in the year 1968 at State House. Now at that meeting is the President of the Republic of Kenya, Jomo Kenyatta. But then also at that meeting is a man called Njoroge Mungai, the President's nephew. And Njoroge Mungai is a qualified medical doctor. And where did he go to university? In the United States of America, at Stanford. And is at this meeting between the President and the ambassador in Kenya from the United States of America. And this meeting is top secret, confidential. We don't know what they discussed, but we have a rough idea. And we also know what happened shortly after that, on what is today Moi Avenue. Twa, twa! 2 shots. Tomboya down. Americans say nothing. Americans don't complain. Do you get my gist? Bottom line, international politics can be brutal. But Kenya is a sovereign state. Foreign influence kitu gani? Chris, Kumekucha, get out of here. There's nothing like that. Kenya is a sovereign state. Now I'm sure you're a very intelligent fellow. Yeah? You can fill in the blanks. You can put everything together. You can put all your ducks in a row and understand something which is very relevant for you to understand just now, so that you'll begin to understand why the parallel rally scheduled for the Jacaranda grounds featuring Raila Odinga has been cancelled. Kwisha maneno. And if you got something from my ramblings, you also understand why we got the election results we got. And hopefully, you can also understand why kimeumana kuumana. And by the way, this time round, wazungu wote wako pamoja, wanaongea lugha moja, Great Britain, US, etc., etc. All of them are together. But don't worry, God is in control. And remember, these wazungus don't understand us. They don't. Many of them have a very low opinion of our thinking capacity. Kumbuka hiyo. Many of them are not aware that even the common man in Kenya, his thinking and reasoning capacity these days, I'm going to say something you won't believe, his thinking and reasoning capacity these days of the ordinary mwananchi is almost on par, if not higher, than the thinking and reasoning capacity of the common man in some of these wazungu countries. I kid you not. Usijidharau ndugu yangu. Don't underestimate yourself, my sister. And that is why I'm saying kimeumana kuumana. Because what is going to happen next is that it's going to be more and more difficult to keep this thing chini ya maji. Itatokelezea. And you know, these kinds of operations, they go to great lengths to make sure everything forever remains chini ya maji. But in this case, imekataa. Imekataa kabisa. And there's something else. This man called Raila Odinga, wachana nae. In fact, I dare say, I will add something. Raila Odinga is not William Ruto. Get that into your head. These two individuals are very different. And Agwambo is just too sly. Yeah. So brace yourselves. Get that popcorn. Wacha movie ianze. Until next time, this is Chris. Kumekucha.